The sun on planet Voltrax was always red, hanging low like a bleeding eye in the sky. Ethan wiped the sweat from his face as he checked the final connections on the alien skimmer. He was just a human mechanic, stranded far from Earth, working. For scraps in the outer colonies, he had fixed broken machines, patched warbots, and even repaired illegal drones. But this job was different. The skimmer belonged to Lord Vorden, a high-ranking alien noble feared across the quadrant. Everyone said he was powerful, cruel, and enjoyed watching others suffer. Ethan didn't care about all that. He just needed fuel and food. When he finished fixing the skimmer's thrusters, the Baron walked toward him, followed by guards in black armor. His skin was pale blue, his eyes cold like glass, his voice deep and mocking. "You fixed it well, human," the Baron said, folding his arms. "You deserve a reward." Ethan stepped back, unsure what the alien meant. The Baron snapped his fingers, and two guards brought out a floating chair. In it sat a young alien. Girl maybe in her early 20s, small and delicate. She had silver hair, glowing purple eyes, and a body that didn't move at all. "This is my daughter Zira," the Baron said, with a cruel smile. "She's useless to me now." The crowd of nobles behind him laughed, their voices echoing across the metal courtyard. "She was once brilliant," the Baron continued, "but she got injured in a lab fire. She can't walk, can't fight, can't even eat without help. I give her to you, human, as payment for your work." Ethan stared at the girl, shocked. She blinked slowly. Her eyes filled with silent pain, but also something else's awareness. The guards let go of the chair, and it hovered quietly beside Ethan. The Baron laughed again, expecting Ethan to reject her and walk away. But Ethan did not move. Instead, he placed his hand gently on the edge of Zira's hover chair. "I accept," he said softly. "She comes with me." The crowd went quiet for a moment. Then the Baron barked out laughter, amused by what he thought was a fool's mistake. "As you wish," he said, turning away. "Enjoy your new toy, human." Ethan guided the chair toward his transport, a rusty old crawler that barely worked. Zira didn't speak, but her eyes never left him. He helped her inside carefully, treating her like someone important, not broken. They drove in silence through the dusty plains, back to Ethan's small workshop near the scrap fields. The workshop was small, full of half-repaired machines and blinking tools. Ethan cleaned up a corner and placed her chair there. He connected a food tube and adjusted her headrest. Still, she said nothing, only watched him with quiet eyes. That night, Ethan sat near her, looking at the stars through the cracked window. "I don't know what they did to you," he said, "but I don't think you're useless." Zira blinked once, slowly. Her fingers twitched, barely noticeable, but it was there. Ethan's eyes widened, but he said nothing. He picked up his tools and began working on a new interface device the next day. Ethan returned with something smaller, neural band with sensors. "I designed this for you," he said, gently placing it on her head. "If your mind still works, we'll find a way to talk." He activated the device, and a soft hum filled the room on his screen. A line of code appeared, just one word: "Why?" Ethan smiled for the first time. "Because I saw something in your eyes," he said. Something they didn't see that night. Zira blinked twice, slowly, and the lights in the workshop flickered as her brain connected to the old systems. Even paralyzed, her mind was powerful, fast, sharp, and hungry. Ethan didn't know what he had just accepted, but deep inside he felt the winds of something much bigger starting to blow. Outside, the desert winds howled, but in the tiny workshop, something new had begun. The morning sun rose slowly over the scrap fields, casting a golden light on Ethan's workshop. Dust swirled in the air as machines hummed quietly. Inside, Ethan stood beside Zira's hover chair. checking the neural band he had placed on her the night before. Her eyes were open, calm, watching every move he made. "Good morning," Ethan said, tapping the screen. "Can you still hear me?" On the monitor, a short message appeared. "Yes," Ethan smiled again. He didn't know much about alien brains, but he knew how to build connections. He believed machines could bridge any gap. The heart and mind were still alive. Over the next few days, he made a better version of the neural band. This one had thin wires that connected directly to the base of Zyra's neck. It looked strange, but it allowed her to control a robotic arm. It was slow at first, shaky and clumsy, but it moved. Zyra typed her first full sentence. "My father never thought I'd move again." Ethan replied, "He was wrong." She began to learn fast, moving the arm with more control. She practiced picking up small tools, stacking blocks, drawing symbols. Her body was still paralyzed, but her mind moved like lightning. Ethan watched in quiet amazement as she taught herself how to program old systems. He didn't understand all the code, but he could tell it was advanced far beyond what he had seen before. "You're a genius," Ethan whispered one night, watching her create a firewall system stronger than anything used by local mercenary. Ship Zyra paused, then typed, "He knew I was. That's why he made sure I couldn't walk." Ethan froze, staring at the words. "You're saying ... He did this to you?" "Yes," came the reply. "I found files in his private system before the fire. He feared I would take his place one day." Ethan clenched his jaw. The Baron had given her to him as a joke, thinking she was broken, but instead, he had handed over the very mind that could destroy him. One evening, as Ethan returned from scavenging spare parts, he found something strange. The lights were flickering in a pattern: 3 blinks. Pause. 2 blinks. Pause. Repeat. He stepped inside and looked at the monitor. Zyra had written, "I unlocked an old satellite link. It still works." Ethan sat down slowly. "You accessed a satellite?" "Yes. I saw something." She displayed a series of images. One of them showed a secret lab deep underground near the Baron's palace. Another showed a list of test subjects. At the top was her name's Yera Vorton. Status: experimental. Neuroenhancement, subject 01. Ethan read the list in silence. There were other names too, all marked as failed. Only Zyra had survived. "You weren't just his daughter," Ethan said softly. "You were his experiment," Zyra responded. "Yes. I was designed to think faster than any living being." He feared what I could become. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. He looked at her not as a broken girl but as someone far greater than anyone had imagined. Someone powerful, hidden behind silence and wires. Later that night, Zyra spoke through the monitor again. "Do you believe in second chances, Ethan?" He nodded. "Of course. Then help me build something." She typed, "Help me build myself." And so they began. Ethan brought old exosuit parts from the junkyard, limbs from broken service bots, and pieces of forgotten tech Zyra designed. A blueprint, a body she could control through her neural interface. A new body that would allow her to move, stand, and one day walk. It took days to build the frame. Nights passed with tools sparking and circuits glowing. Zyra named it Unit. Z1. It looked humanoid, sleek, but strong when the final connection was made. Ethan held his breath. Zyra's eyes glowed brighter, and the robot hand rose into the air. Fingers moved slowly, then opened fully for the first time. Zyra reached out and touched Ethan's hand with her new one. He felt cold metal, but also something warm behind it: hope. "I'm ready," Zyra typed. This is only the beginning. And outside, unnoticed by either of them, a drone circled overhead. It had no markings, but it sent a signal far away to the Baron's fortress. Zyra was alive, and she was building. Ethan woke up to the soft sound of clicking metal. Zyra was already connected to Unit Z1, her robotic frame. She stood near the workbench, carefully moving her artificial hand over a screen. The hand was smooth now, more natural in motion, almost like real muscle. "You didn't sleep," Ethan said with a tired smile. "I don't need sleep when I have work," Zyra replied through the console. "And I found something important." Ethan rubbed his eyes and walked closer on the screen. Zyra had opened a dark system-encrypted database buried deep in the Baron's network. "How did you access this?" Ethan asked, surprised. "The satellite link gave me a back door." She typed. "I traced it to his personal AI core." Lines of data scrolled down. Each one contained location names, ship routes, cargo transfers, and something more: coordinates, marked as black vaults. Zyra tapped one point on the map. "This is near the outer canyons," Ethan said, recognizing the rocky terrain. "It's a secret storage site," she explained. "My father kept experiments, records, even failed prototypes there." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You want to go there?" he said, more as a statement than a question. "Yes," Zyra replied. "It's time for our first move." They loaded the crawler with supplies, tools, cables, power cells, and defense drones Ethan had rebuilt. Zyra powered up Unit Z1 and climbed into the cockpit chair behind the metal shell. From there, she controlled everything: the arms, legs, eyes, and even weapons hidden in the chest panel. By evening, they reached the canyon. Rocks towered around them, casting long shadows in the red light of Voltrax's sun. Zyra scanned the cliff walls and pointed at a crack between two jagged stones. "There's a camouflaged entrance," she said. "It's coated with a biometric lock." Ethan moved forward, touching the scanner. Nothing happened. Zyra stepped forward, raised her robotic hand, and placed her metal finger on the scanner. There was a sharp beep. Then the rocks shifted with a grinding sound. A hidden door slid open, revealing a dark corridor filled with stale air and flickering lights. Inside, the vault was cold and silent. Shelves lined the walls, filled with files, broken machines, and strange devices. At the far end, there was a glowing blue tube with a body inside. It was a young alien, his body deformed, eyes shut forever. "Test subject 04. Zyra said slowly. "He was my friend." Ethan stepped back, letting her approach. Alone. She stood in front of the glass, placing her hand gently against it. For a moment, there was only silence. "He tried to escape the lab with me," she typed finally, "but the explosion paralyzed me and killed him." Her robotic hand clenched into a fist. "This is what my father hides," she continued. "Pain, lies, and death." Suddenly, a red light flashed in the vault. Zyra's sensors picked up movement. For sentry bots activated from hidden corners, their weapons charged. Ethan pulled out a blaster. But Zyra raised her metal arm. "Let me handle it." She raised her right palm and launched a pulse wave, shorting out the closest bot. Then she dodged left, using the robot body's speed to outmaneuver the second. She slid under a falling shelf, spun, and fired an energy beam from her chest unit, destroying the last two bots. When the dust cleared, Ethan stood frozen. Zyra turned to him. "I told you," she said. "This is just the beginning." They downloaded every file from the vault: documents, experiments, recorded messages, and blueprints. One recording showed the Baron himself speaking to his advisors. "Zyra is too dangerous," he said. "Her mind is stronger than any soldier's gun. We must keep her silent." Ethan watched the video and felt something rise in his chest, not just anger, but purpose. "She's not silent anymore," he whispered as they left the vault. Zyra uploaded a virus into the vault's old system. It wiped the memory clean and left one single message, flashing in red. "I remember everything." That night, back in the workshop, Ethan and Zyra studied the files. They learned about the MindLink protocol, a neural weapon her father planned to use. It could control minds, wipe memories, or make people believe lies he wanted to use. It on political enemies, Zyra explained. Maybe even on me. Ethan leaned back, staring at her glowing eyes. Then we stop him, he said. We don't hide. No, she agreed. We strike back, and somewhere deep in the Barrens. Fortress. Alarms began to ring. He looked at the screen and saw her face appear, cold and alive. The girl he gave away was coming back. And this time, she was not alone. The night on Voltrax was darker than usual. Storm clouds gathered above the scrap. Fields and a low rumble echoed across the land. Ethan stood on the roof of his workshop, watching the lightning flash across the sky. Inside, Zyra was connecting old defense grids to her neural link. She had become faster in Unit Z1, more precise. More focused, her body was still locked in the hover chair. But her mind flew through data like a storm. Every movement, every system, every power source, she understood it all. She had rebuilt herself once. Now she was upgrading the world around her. But someone was watching, far above them, a stealth drone circled, invisible to normal eyes. It recorded everything, her movements, her tech, even Ethan's face. It sent the data directly to Baron Vorton's private war room deep inside his fortress. The Baron sat on a throne of black crystal. Cold eyes fixed on the screen. He watched his daughter move like a machine reborn. She was no longer silent, no longer broken, and that made her dangerous. She should have died in that fire, the Baron muttered. She should have remained paralyzed. He turned to a tall warrior behind him. Dressed in silver armor and holding a spear made of plasma, sent a squad to eliminate her. He commanded, no traces, no survivors. At midnight, a group of assassins arrived outside Ethan's workshop. They wore black cloaks, their faces covered, their steps silent. They moved like shadows, carrying shock rifles and energy blades. Their orders were clear. Erase the girl, destroy the human, leave no witnesses inside. Zyra's sensors picked up motion. She paused her programming and activated the perimeter. Grid. Red lights flickered on the edges of the screens. We have visitors, she told Ethan calmly. Ethan grabbed his blaster and ran to the door. Zyra transferred into Unit Z1 and stepped out behind him. Her metal frame gleamed in the moonlight, her eyes glowing bright. Then the first attack came. A silent bolt shattered the workshop window, and two assassins leaped through the smoke. Ethan fired quickly, hitting one in the shoulder. Zyra spun forward, knocking the other back with a powerful punch from her robotic fist. More assassins appeared from the shadows, surrounding them. Zyra activated her pulse shield, a glowing field of blue energy that shimmered around her body. She dashed between enemies, disabling them one by one with shocking speed. Ethan stayed close to the wall, using cover to pick off attackers with precise shots. He wasn't a soldier, but he had learned how to survive. Zyra was the center of the storm, her mind moving faster than her enemies could react. Within minutes, the battle was over. 4 assassins lay on the ground, stunned or broken. The others had fled into the darkness. Zyra scanned the bodies and found something strange. One of the helmets had a communication link open. She hacked into it and listened to the last command. If she survives, deploy the wipe drone. Erase. Her mind, Zyra froze. She had heard of wipe drones. They didn't kill the body. They killed the mind. She turned to Ethan, eyes serious. He wants to make me forget everything. Ethan's hands clenched. Then we have no choice, he said. We hit him before he hits you. That night, they moved deeper into the underground. Systems below the workshop, there, hidden in the ruins of old tech, was something Ethan had found years ago. A forgotten military core from the first war between humans and aliens. Zyra examined it with interest. This can work, she said. With this, I can create an anti-wiped firewall inside my brain. She linked her neural code into the system and began uploading new protection layers. It was dangerous if something went wrong. It could shut her down forever, but Zira didn't hesitate. She was done being hunted. Hours passed, and Ethan watched her carefully. Sparks flew around her, and strange symbols flashed on the walls. Then silence. Her eyes opened again, glowing, brighter than ever before. "It worked," she said. "He can't erase me anymore." Outside, the clouds cleared slowly, but the signal had already been sent. The Baron's spy ships were on their way, tracking her movement, measuring her strength. Zira stood in the center of the workshop, her metal body still, but her mind burning like fire. "He thought he ended me," she whispered. "But now I'm awake, and somewhere deep in the galaxy." The first rebel leaders began whispering her name. Not as a joke, not as a failure, but as a storm that would shake the stars. The name Zira began to spread, not as a whisper of failure, but as a signal of something rising across the lower colonies and border moons. People heard stories of the girl the Baron discarded, the girl who could move machines with her thoughts and fight armies with a single robotic body. They called her the Mind-Born. Back in the workshop, Ira stood by the communication tower Ethan had reactivated. Wearing Unit Z1, she transmitted encrypted messages into deep space. She wasn't calling for help. She was calling those who had been forgotten scientists. Hackers, former soldiers, and survivors like her. "I don't want a war," she said. To Ethan, her voice steady. "But I will start one if that's what it takes to break his power." Ethan nodded. "You're not alone anymore," Kay said. One by one, signals came back. A hidden rebel cell on a mining moon answered. A defected AI researcher from a cold satellite replied. Even a rogue alien prince sent support, offering cloaked drones and access codes. Zira took them all in with each ally. Her network grew stronger. They didn't follow her because she was noble-born. They followed her because she had survived the worst and refused to bow. At night, she hovered over a map of the Baron's empire. Each red dot marked a lab, a prison, or a slave mine controlled by his forces. "We don't hit him directly," Zira said. "We cut off the pieces." Their first target was a data tower on the icy moon Gorin. It stored genetic codes from thousands of illegal experiments. Including hers, Zira led the mission herself, piloting Unit Z1 into the storm-covered base. The guards never expected her. With new cloaking tech from the rogue prince, she appeared behind them before they could fire. She moved like lightning, stunning bots and locking doors inside the server core. She planted her own code one that sent every secret to her growing alliance. Then she left a message on every screen. "To the forgotten I, see you." The Baron watched helplessly as his systems were breached. His advisors begged him to use the orbital cannons. But the girl was already gone. His words no longer silenced. Hers now shook the sky on Voltrax. Ethan built a small hangar beside the workshop. Ships began arriving under cover of night. Old war veterans, alien defectors, human engineers, even a few androids all came to meet Zira. They called her Commander Mindborn. Zira didn't speak much. She let her actions guide them. She showed them the truth videos, files, names of children lost to the Baron's labs. She wasn't just seeking revenge. She was lighting a fire no one could put out. Ethan stood beside her during every speech. He was still the same human mechanic. But now, people called him the First. Spark, the one who saw her worth when no one else did. One night, Zira returned from a mission and stood in the desert alone. She looked up at the stars, silent for a long time. Ethan joined her, placing a hand on her robotic shoulder. "You okay?" he asked. "Sometimes I still feel the chair," she said softly. "I remember what it was like to be stuck." Forgotten? Ethan didn't reply. He just stood there with her, letting the wind blow around them. The next day, Zira ordered something bold. They would take over the Baron's personal relay satellite. the one that controlled all his inner world. Messages, if they controlled that, they could send a message to the entire sector. Unedited, unfiltered, unstoppable. The mission was dangerous. The relay was protected by advanced AS and orbital drones. Zyra had prepared. She uploaded a decoy version of herself into the Systema digital ghost. While the defenses attacked the ghost, she and Ethan slipped into the relay station. From below, inside, she connected her mind to the main transmitter. Her voice reached every ship, every planet, every screen within 100 light years. "This is Zyra Vorton," she began. "My father gave me away, thinking I was broken, but I was never broken. I was born with a mind meant to build, not be buried. If you hear this, and you've been silenced, I speak for you. If you've been discarded, I rise for you. Join me." The message spread like wildfire. Ships lit up with her symbol, a silver circle with lines of light. People on mining colonies cheered, prisoners cried, and even some of the Baron's own guards turned away from him. The Baron watched the transmission with shaking hands. He slammed his fist onto the control desk. "She was a joke," he shouted. "A broken joke." But the galaxy no longer laughed. Zyra had risen, and now? Her voice was a storm that echoed across the stars. The Baron sat in silence inside his fortress. The lights around him flickered as reports came in from every direction. Outposts lost, files leaked, allies turning away. The name Zyra had become a banner of rebellion, and the people were listening. He stared at her symbol, the glowing silver circle now painted on ships and walls across his sector. "She thinks this is her victory." He growled, "But I created her." The Baron turned to his last weapon, hidden deep in the vault beneath. His throne, a neural virus designed years ago when he first feared Zyra's growing intellect. It was never used, not even tested on others, because this virus wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to erase, not just data, but identity, memories, thoughts, and emotions, a complete shutdown of the mind. Turning any being into an empty shell, he gave the command, "Deploy the virus," he said coldly. "Target her brain through her network back on Voltrax." Zyra was updating communication nodes with Ethan. She had just finished linking a rebel shipyard to the secure feed when something strange happened. Her vision blurred, and for a moment she forgot where she was. Ethan noticed it immediately. "Zyra?" he asked. Stepping toward her, she didn't answer. Her robotic body froze in place. Eyes glowing dim, inside her mind, the world cracked open. She was no longer in the workshop. She was inside a maze. The sky was black. The ground was white, and data flowed like rivers around her feet. Voices echoed. Memories flickered in and out her childhood. The lab, the fire, Ethan. But something dark crept in. A shadow with no face, whispering lies. "You're not real," it said. "You were." Made to obey, Zyra backed away, heart pounding. She realized what was happening. The virus had entered her neural system. It was rewriting her, erasing her one memory at a time. Outside, Ethan ran diagnostics. "She's being attacked," he said, "but not physically. It's inside her." Mind, he opened the emergency port and connected a memory stabilizer to her chair. But it wasn't enough. Her mind was too advanced, and the virus was spreading fast. Then he had an idea. He grabbed a Neuralink, a prototype Zyra had designed to train AIs. He placed it on his head and connected the other end to her system. "I'm coming in," he whispered. Inside the virtual space, Ethan appeared. He wasn't a warrior or a scientist, but he knew her better than anyone. He called her name again and again, and finally, she turned. "Ethan," she said, "you shouldn't be here." "I'm not leaving," he replied. "You pulled me out of the dark once. Now it's my turn." Together, they moved through the maze. Every corner was a broken memory. Every shadow a part of the virus. Zyra used her mind to rebuild paths, turning data into light. Ethan held onto her hand, keeping her grounded. Then the shadow returned, bigger now, more aggressive. It rushed toward them with waves of black code. Zyra screamed as the pain surged through her. Ethan stood in front of her. "You don't get." To erase her, he said to the virus, "She's not your creation, she's herself." He raised his other hand and activated the firewall Zyra had built weeks ago. It was buried deep inside the military core under the workshop. It had one purpose: to protect her mind. The firewall exploded in golden light. The shadow shattered. Screaming as it dissolved, Zyra fell to her knees, breathing hard. Slowly, the sky turned blue. The ground stabilized, and her memories returned like waves. Her first time walking in Unit C1. Her speech at the relay station, her promise to the forgotten. She stood up again, stronger than before. "I remember everything," she said, "and now I know what I must do." The connection broke, and both of them opened their eyes in the real world. Zyra stood, systems fully online. Energy surging through her robotic limbs. Ethan sat back, wiping sweat from his face. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm more than okay," she said. "I'm ready." That same night, she sent a message to every rebel outpost. "The Baron tried to erase me," she said, "but my memory is my strength. And tomorrow, we take the fight, too." Him, across the stars, rebel ships prepared for war. Pilots geared up. Engineers activated long-forgotten weapons. They were not just fighting for Zyra. They were fighting with her. In the center of it all stood the girl once called a joke. Now a commander, a symbol, a storm. She looked to the stars and whispered, "Next, we end this." The sky above Voltrax glowed with starship lights, rebel cruisers, fighters, and stealth drones circled in silent formation. Each one carried the silver circle of Zyroth. Mindborne Galaxy had heard her voice, and now it had answered with ships, soldiers, and belief inside the central command ship. Zyra stood at the front of the war room. She was no longer just a girl in a hover chair. She was a leader in full control of Unit Z1. Stronger than she had ever been, her team stood behind her. Ethan, the rogue prince, AI tacticians, former enemies now turned allies. Zyra tapped the holotable, and the Baron's fortress appeared in glowing red light. "This is where he hides," she said. "And this is where it ends." Ethan nodded beside her. "We've hit every lab, every relay, every secret vault," he said. "But he still holds the core command center." Zyra's voice was calm. Not for long. The final plan was bold. A triple strike. Zyra and her elite team would breach the fortress from the lower vents. A second group would jam the Baron's emergency signals. And a third fleet would circle above, cutting off all escape routes. The ships moved like silent wolves, cloaked in deep space. As they approached, Zyra's heart beat faster, not with fear, but with purpose. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. The Baron sat in his throne room, staring at the hollow halls around him. His advisors had fled. His army was in ruins. And the symbols of his control were falling everywhere. He watched Zyra's fleet on the screen and laughed bitterly. She was supposed to be a joke. He muttered, "A broken thing." Then alarms rang out. Zyra had arrived. The entrance exploded in white light as Unit Z1 stepped through the smoke. Behind her came Ethan and a squad of rebels dressed in silver armor. Guards tried to block the hallway, but Zyra moved faster than thought. She disabled them without killing. She didn't want to become the monster her father was. They reached the throne room, and the doors opened slowly. The Baron stood there, his armor half broken, crown cracked. "So," he said, "you've come to destroy me." Zyra walked forward. "No," she said, "I've come to end what you started." The Baron sneered. "You are nothing without me," he said. I made you." Zyra's eyes glowed brighter. "No," she replied. "You tried to destroy me. But I made myself." He raised his weapon, a pulse blade humming with dark energy. Zyra didn't flinch. With one move, she blocked the strike, disabled the blade, and held him in a metal grip. But she didn't crush him. She turned to the broadcast drone floating behind Ethan. "Let him speak," she said. The Baron stammered. What are you doing?" "I want them to hear," Zyra said. "I want the galaxy to see the man who broke children, silenced minds, and ruled through fear." Ethan activated the broadcast, and the Baron's image filled screens across the stars. His lies were shattered, his crimes exposed. There was no more hiding, no more power, only silence. The people of Voltrax opened the prison gates. The workers of the mines laid down their tools. The lab floors were cleared, and the AI-controlled zones returned to civilian hands. It was not a war, it was a release. Back at the fortress, Zyra stood over her father. "You will not die here," she said. "You will face trial in front of those you hurt," he screamed. In anger, but no one listened. His voice no longer held fear. His name no longer held weight. Zyra stepped outside the palace and looked up at the rebel ships above. The people cheered her name, not as a savior, but as a symbol. Later, back at Bella, the workshop where it all began, Zyra sat quietly with Ethan. They watched the stars in silence. So much had changed. But the memory of who she was, the discarded girl in a cherry made. "You didn't just help me walk," Zyra said. "You helped me rise." Ethan smiled. "You were always going to rise. I just reminded you you could." She reached out and held his hand, not with a metal grip, but with warmth in her eyes. "This is not the end," she said. "There are more like me out there." And now they know they are not alone. From across the stars, messages began arriving. New leaders, free cities, survivors, thinkers, builders, dreamers, while reaching out to her. And every one of them knew the truth. She was not a mistake. She was not a joke. She was Zyra the Mind-Born. And her voice would echo through time, long after the stars forgot the name of the man who tried to break her.